Over the last 12 months I've made a couple of videos on how to roast chestnuts at home. In the first video it was a straightforward way where I used the air fryer, but also gave some instructions on how to do it also in the oven. And there are the more standard ways of doing them this year. By the way, I'm getting some chestnuts which I purchased from the supermarket 3 days ago. I keep them in the fridge until I need them. They stay fresh and they will not go too hard too soon. Little aside. Today I'm taking you into slightly different directions and I'm going to cook them in a different way. Sometimes people ask me if olive oil is still good when you heat it. And the answer there is yes. Olive oil is very good for you, and when it's heated also retains all of its good properties. And it's full of good fat and antioxidants that help you live a healthy life and manage everyday stress. And when we roast vegetables with olive oil, something really interesting happens. Think about eggplants or peppers or onions. If you were to roast them without any oil, they would dry quickly, they would wrinkle, and all of the flavour would stay at the surface. But with olive oil, the heat travels more evenly and the vegetables caramelise more deeply, and the inside stays tender instead of becoming dry. So the oil effectively carries the seasoning inside so that the flavour becomes rounder and more balanced. And this is why roasted vegetables, like peppers as an example, they taste better if roasted with olive oil than dry, as the oil penetrates them and brings out the fragrance and the natural sweetness that is already in the peppers. And the same idea also applies beautifully to chestnuts. They are sweet vegetables and they also benefit from that softness and aroma and balance I was referring to earlier. So today I'm treating my chestnuts very much like a Mediterranean vegetable, enabling the olive oil to gently penetrate them and drive out that beautiful flavour from the inside. Also, you might or might not know that olive oil is very rich in antioxidants, which is great to fight inflammations in our body. And antioxidants are very simple to understand. Think of them as tiny little helpers that help tidy up the rust that we might develop in our body. Just like metal rusts, if exposed to air, our body cells will go through a similar process just by the fact that we breathe and everyday life. And antioxidants very much help in that respect, as they work from the inside, make the whole process smoother, and they effectively work in silence inside our body to help us stay fit. Also, olive oil, especially extra virgin olive oil, is rich in polyphenols. I know it sounds a bit like a very technical word, but think of them as little guardians living inside the olive, and their job is twofold. One is to bring out the flavour and the fragrance of the oil, but also they are incredibly good for keeping inflammations down. And they are good also for the skin, and they give you a lovely soft skin. Think about if you think about the antioxidant as something against the rust, you can think of the polyphenol as your cloth that you might use to polish a table. You're not changing the structure of the table, but you are actually bringing out the shyness of the table and looking beautiful. And that's exactly what polyphenols will do to our body. Now you might be thinking, Francesco, what's up with all this science today? I just wanted to give you really some context, because I will be roasting my chestnuts using olive oil in a different way, but there is this misconception that using olive oil is not healthy. Actually it's the opposite. So I just wanted to give you some context so that you understand the angle I'm coming from. So whilst I've been mumbling on about antioxidants and polyphenol and so on, I have been roasting my chestnuts, and I've got the last 3, and I forgot that I should show you what I'm doing. So you will have noticed that not only I am scoring them on both sides, but also I'm going considerably deeper than what I would have done if I would have roasted them normally. So you can see I'm doing it now on this one. I've done the first side and here is the second side, and sometimes I might even dislodge a bit of the skin. I'm not worried at all. So here they are. I've done a cross on all of them, and I've opted for a cross rather than the general cut like this for a specific reason, because I want to effectively ensure that the olive oil penetrate my chestnut as much as possible and as deep as possible. Clearly I don't want to chop them in half. I want them to retain structure and I want to still be able to open them, but I'm going in quite deep, and I'll show you with my last one, so hopefully I won't get it wrong. So the knife goes in, making sure that I'm being very slow and very methodical, and you can see I'm cutting into the chestnut and I'm going making a cross, and I'm using a paring knife, which actually is brilliant because it gives me full control and I do not hurt myself. And I'm going both ways, like this and like this. During my second video, which I only made about a month or a month and a half ago, I went for a bike ride in the Norfolk countryside, and I cooked chestnuts 4 different ways. I'll post the video up here if you're interested. And that was very much an experiment to see what flavour was best. And I also used the wood burner, I used the air fryer, I used the hob, and I used the oven. And the wood burner was the winner. But the air fryer and the oven were very close number 2. So this experiment, well, it's not an experiment, this recipe today, call it an experiment if you like, because I'm not sure if anybody has ever done it, effectively combines the benefit of olive oil but also the use of the air fryer. And you saw me pouring some olive oil on top of my chestnuts, and I've put a good tablespoon in there, and I will add now some salt. And I'm going to be fairly generous with salt because the chestnut will only take the salt that it needs. So I'm going to put a couple of teaspoons. Then I'm going to use my hands and I'll mix them all together to ensure that they're all marinated. And as I have actually made a very deep cut into the chestnut, the oil will go inside and it will take the salt inside the chestnut, and it will give me the perfect foundation before I start roasting them. Here they are. I'll leave them to rest now for about 5-10 minutes, enough to get things settled down, and then I'll put them inside the air fryer. And of course you can also use the oven if you wish. You do not have to use an air fryer, especially if you haven't got one. Little tip, in my case my chestnuts are medium to large, so they're going to need a little longer to cook. But a lot depends on the size of your chestnuts, and of course if you also have got different sizes, some smaller ones and some bigger ones, start with the bigger ones first and then you can add the smaller ones halfway through, or maybe after a quarter of the time. So they will be going in for approximately 24 to 25 minutes because of their size. Temperature is going to be 200 degrees. And the same will apply if you're using an oven at home, but if you've got a conventional oven, you can up the temperature by 10 degrees. What I'm going to do is to put them in, and I will be cooking them in 3 cycles of 8 minutes each cycle. So first of all, here I'm going to show you the temperature. I'm going to add 20 degrees to bring it to 200, and I'm waiting for the time to switch to 8, and I'll start it. And then in 8 minutes time I'll show you what they look like anyway, so that I can inspect them. I'll give them a toss and then I'll do it again 2 more times. So I'll see you in 8 minutes. I thought it beeped. It doesn't beep. Never mind. 8 minutes have passed. So I'll give them a gentle toss, and you can see what I'm referring to. The deeper cuts are very visible on both sides, of course. And imagine you've got some very dry land, and there is warm rain coming down, and you've got a tiny little crack in your dry soil. The water would stay on the surface, but if you've got a larger opening, the water will find its way inside the soil, and everything will become considerably more softer, and also the ground will be more fertile. And that's exactly what is happening here. I have made my soil more fertile, I've made my chestnut more fertile by giving it a bigger cut, and the oil is finding its way in and it's dragging the salt with it, making it considerably tastier and more fragrant. So in it goes for another 8 minutes, and temperature again 200 degrees, and I'll see you now when the cycle is complete. See you later. I tested them after the second lot of 8 minutes, so the 16th minute, and they were almost done. So I've decided to cut the third cycle short to 4 minutes. So in total they will have cooked for 20 minutes. So obviously you will have to adjust it and regulate it depending on the size of your chestnut. So that's why it's important to toast them halfway. They are piping hot. I'm putting them in a basket with a little serviette so that they look a little bit more presentable, but also to ensure that any excess oil, you be quiet, any excess oil can be drawn by the paper, and I'll test one in a moment. The other thing I was going to add is that they might not look as beautiful or as pretty as some of the ones with the traditional cut, but do believe me, the look here will not matter. Don't look too bad, don't do that, Julie.
No,
because the flavour will be amazing. So they're really hot, but I'm going to pick one up and I'm going to taste it while it's still piping hot, because I'm really keen to share it with you. And you can see that they open very easily, by the way, just like you'd expect. So here it is. It's looking nice and shiny, and I'm really keen to tell you what it's like. I've actually made them already, but decided to do a video. It's quite amazing actually, because in this short video very much represents the spirit of Mediterranean cooking, where it's comforting and flavorful, but also it is good, and it's good for you, and it brings the taste, and it's simple to make. So a little bit of olive oil, a little salt, and chestnuts, all of a sudden it's transformed into something amazing and quite good for you. So honestly, if you try them, you will never go back to make roasted chestnuts the old traditional ways. And a little salt goes a really long way to enhance the flavor further. Oh, hot. Thank you. See you later. Bye bye.